Don't go chasing waterfalls. Listen to the river and the lakes that you used to. Hello and welcome to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies with special guest Tim Davis. This is the podcast where all three of us went and saw a movie at our local Regal Theater. And now we're sitting in Matt's Honda Pilot after the movie, sitting in the rain. And you know what? We're gonna talk about this movie. We're gonna talk about the hard-hitting things like, should you see this movie? Should you not see this movie? Should you bring snacks to this movie? Should you hold off on the snacks of this movie? Should you stream this movie? Should you skip it all together and put it out of your mind and bury it and forget all about it? We're going to hopefully answer all those questions for you and maybe more, but also no promises. I am Todd Domer.
And I'm Matt Malloy. And yes, welcome to another episode of our little podcast here. Tim Davis back with us as always.
Glad to be here.
Or as not always, but as today. As many times lately. And we are going to be giving our gut reactions to the new Avatar: The Way of Water movie. That's right, guys. Avatar came out with a sequel.
Avatar's back.
13 years after the first one. Or whatever the real number is.
Something like that.
It's close to that. So, who's in this movie? There are a few people in this movie who are famous. Most of them are blue for this movie, so you can't really tell who they are. But I'll name off the ones that I recognize, which are Zoe Saldana, Kate Winslet, Sigourney Weaver, who is both blue and not blue in this movie.
True.
And who else?
Sam Worthington.
Okay.
Is the main character.
The main
Jake.
The
Jake Sully.
Sully character.
Let's see.
Stephen Lang, who's the villain.
Okay.
He was the villain in the first one. He's hamming it up again.
Okay.
I'd argue Cliff Curtis is one of the, although he's less recognizable here, but the guy who plays the new tribe that they meet, Chief.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's a very versatile actor. There's been a lot of stuff over the years.
Most notably,
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
name one.
Push.
Push.
What I remember him from.
Okay.
Hobbs and Shaw.
Hobbs and Shaw.
Okay.
He played Jesus in a movie.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. Okay.
I mean, he's never
He's never the
main, he's one of those side
But he
characters.
shows up in movies and you're like,
he's in a lot.
Except for the movie where he played Jesus. I'm guessing he's the star of that movie.
We don't know.
He wasn't. It was about a guy following him around, skeptical of his beliefs.
Fair enough.
There you go.
It's bad when you play Jesus and you're not the star of the movie.
It's a good movie, though.
All right. Anyone else?
I think that covers.
Okay.
He was also in Avatar, the Last Airbender Avatar movie.
Bad
Okay.
Avatar movie.
Gotcha.
He gets
Gotcha.
around. Let's
He
just
does.
say that.
He's been in a lot of stuff.
He gets around.
He does. All right. So this movie's 3 hours long. I'm going to try and summarize the plot, but I'm going to really gloss over a lot because it's a lot. It would be a lot for me to explain the entire plot.
Well, and our reviews can fill in a little bit by not being spoilers.
I want them to explain. I want them to
Right.
experience it as well.
Right. So, what's this movie about? Well, it's a sequel to Avatar, the first one. If you've seen the first one, there's this character in it called Jake Sully who, becomes a blue person.
Navi.
And the end. That's the first movie.
So that's basically the first movie, and he's like the head of this tribe. So whatever. We come into this new movie, and people have come back to the planet of. Is the planet called Pandora?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. They've come back to Pandora, and they're seeking not just to mine unobtainium, but they're seeking to really establish a new Earth. Because Earth is dying, we find out in this movie. And then it's like, okay, there's some conflict between the Na'vi people and the Sky people, aka Earthlings, who are there. And there's like raids being carried out and stuff like that. and that's disrupting the peaceful sort of colonization of the planet of Pandora by Earthlings. And so they send a group of clones to Pandora, a military group who has the memories of characters who are humans in the first movie. But in this movie, they are Na'vi. Yes.
They've been turned blue.
They've been turned blue. Their facial structure is the same, and they have the memories of the old people, of the old characters. And so they are sent there to settle things down and try and like end the threat of the Na'vi people. And I think there's 8 of them or so.
Yeah.
But they're going to take care of it. And because they have these new bodies that are stronger and bigger and faster, like Na'vi people are, they may be able to accomplish this goal of defeating an entire race of people and inhabit the world. It could happen.
Their specific mission is just to find and kill Jake Sully.
Well,
It has even nothing to do with the overall colonization of the planet. They are set on one specific small task.
So
the main villain's back.
yes, I'll say that, to be fair, they weren't really given that exact mission.
He just basically said this.
He said, "This is how we're going to accomplish our goal of defeating the Na'vi
kill
people.
them, they'll give up." Kind of. Was his thought.
We will capture this guy and kill this guy from the first movie, who's now a tribal chief." And so they arrive there and proceed in trying to sort of integrate into the biosystem of the planet, which they can now do because they have blue skin. And once Jake Sully hears about this, he says, "Well, I'm just a threat. I'm just drawing this guy to me. I'm going to go and hide with a new tribe of Na'vi people who are water-faring Na'vi." Or they live on land, but they live right on the coast, and they operate in the ocean quite a bit. So he does take his family, and they go. He's got 4 kids at this point, including Sigourney Weaver's daughter, who looks like Sigourney Weaver, I think.
Yeah.
So they arrive there, and a lot of the movie is then spent with them sort of integrating into this new society. They're forest Na'vi, and these new people are sea Na'vi, and they have slightly different characteristics, slightly different skin tone. So they're learning about how to be, ocean reef people. And then inevitably, our villain, the now blue Colonel, whatever his name is, tracks them down and starts to try and have a singular focus on Jake Sully and drawing him out and trying to capture him and or kill him, and using his family against him and things like that. And there's a lot of big conflicts, and it all blows up at the end with a big final battle where everyone battles and things are resolved and set up for the next Avatar movie. And that's what I'm going to say about that. And now we will move on to Todd's spicy take.
So spicy. The first thing I have to say about this movie is that it's about an hour and a half too long. Like, almost everything could have been accomplished in this movie in an hour and a half by not having so much drawn out who cares and cutting kind of storylines that are thrown in and go absolutely nowhere. Like, maybe like they're going to come up in the next movie, but I don't think that's good storytelling to be relying on the next movie. Like, you want to make the best movie you can possibly make in this movie. Maybe you throw like a little cliffhanger off at the end or whatever, but it just was it was way too long, and it was filled with, in my opinion, a lot of who cares. And then my other like big, huge problem with this movie, I think this would be a fine movie if Avatar 1 didn't exist. But it is the same movie. Like, it is pound for pound the same movie, including introduce another thing that humans are like, a resource that humans are going after that does something and they need it and it's super expensive, and it's these people who are new to this tribe learning their stuff. We get so many like long stuff about the water and the animals in the water and stuff like that. It's just the first one was about the animals in the forest and how it's all connected, and here's our way of life. And this one's the same thing, just replace land forest people with water sea creatures and stuff. And then to the point where it's like, we get this, you know, the first movie had this big climactic battle kind of in the forest, and then this one's going to have a big climactic battle in the sea, and if the next one's about air, it's going to have this big climactic battle in the air. Like, if you're going to keep making these movies, they, like, don't copy and paste the first movie. Like, it doesn't get me excited for anything. Like, it doesn't get me excited for the future. Like, is 3 just going to be 1 all over again, but just in the air, I guess? Also, any characters you met in the first movie that maybe you like to see more of, like, be prepared to see them for the first 20 minutes of the movie, and then boom, they're all kicked out. Yep. We got to introduce a whole new cast of characters. It just, I'm not a fan. This movie came out way too late to follow up on the sequel to follow up on the success of the first one. It's a copy and paste of the first one. It's just, I don't know. James Cameron is way too high on himself, thinking that he's putting out cinema gold when really it's just kind of reused BS, in my opinion.
Did you say it's cinema led, Todd?
Yes.
Cinema led.
And it just, if you've seen the first one, you've seen this one. There's really not a whole lot. And then anything they kind of introduced, sort of like the Sigourney Weaver character, her connection to her mother, like what's going on there, the mystery of who the father is. Just get ready for like 1 or 2 scenes where they get you slightly interested in that, and then it's just dropped and not talked about and whatever. We're just gonna put that to the side. Maybe we'll pay it off in a movie or 2, because I think there's like 2 more already like ready to go. And yeah, I wasn't a fan. I mean, sure, there's good looking stuff, great, fantastic. Every movie has almost great looking stuff nowadays. It's just there's nothing in this movie, in my opinion, to really say, hey, come see this movie. Like, unless you just want to see Pandora all over again on the big screen, and like, I guess that's a reason to see the movie, but the movie itself being a good movie is no draw, in my opinion, to come see it. So I can't even say I was like let down, because I really wasn't the biggest fan of the first one, because I think it's a straight up copy of some other movies, just introduce an alien world, like, and yeah, I mean, there's a lot more I could say in specifics, but I don't want to like go into like spoilers and stuff like that. I just thought it just didn't hit any marks that excited me. Some action was okay, I guess, but I don't know. In my humble opinion, I wouldn't waste my time. Like, if you saw the first one and you were like, okay, then don't see the second one, because it's not going to like improve upon the first one. It's not going to like go places that the first one didn't go, except for underwater. So, yeah, it's not going to get a good review. If you love the first one and you're excited, then go see this one, I guess. But that's the only caveat I feel of going to see this one. I'm not happy, but that's where I'm going to end it. Okay. Tim, what do you feel about this Avatar? How many times in the movie can we put in Way of the Water? Because I counted at least 5.
I think I have the perfect word for this movie, and it's mostly related to James Cameron. Self-indulgent. Like, this movie, you could tell he took his craft seriously. He worked hard on it. He tried to make it as visually impressive as he could. And, you know, God bless him. This is his little baby. He loves these movies. He loves what he's doing with them. And it shows that much. I'll give him that. The problem is, like you said, Todd, it's the same movie in a different place. And what was groundbreaking when it first came out, as far as the visuals, is just another thing now. And I feel like when you set the bar so high, you know, even if you didn't love the first movie, like, at least felt important. It felt like this is a step in, like, movie making. Like, wow, he really did something here. This one doesn't have that pull or resonating effect after. I don't think. It just feels like another copy. Not in the way, and we've seen legacy sequels in recent years that have improved upon their lore or done something new or changed something about it to keep it interesting. Not all of them, but, you know, and it's just like
Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, that's why Top Gun Maverick was the first thing I thought of. And it's just like, you can do it. And yes, I understand you kind of have to make a sequel to one of the most profitable movies of all time, which Avatar 1 was. But I guess like you, it's like 12 years later, or 13, whatever it is, it should have been more epic. And it just felt like, okay, yep, here's this. Up, there's some things jumping out of the water. Okay, up there they are, shooting their arrows again. And like you said, and we recycled the villain. We recycled, you know, the Bonds and Sigourney Weaver's new daughter is just as connected to the Earth Tree as she was. And it wasn't new, and it should have been. And yeah, the visuals were great, but you need more than that these days. When the first one was able to skate by on being, wow, I've never seen anything like that before. But we're not in that world anymore. And so if you're a fan of Avatar or James Cameron and the way he does these things, then this movie is for you. He made it for you. If you're all about that world, this is right up your alley. But if you're a more casual moviegoer who maybe, oh, what's this Avatar about? Let me go check it out, and you saw the first one, then you've seen it. You're good. And this is going to keep going, apparently. So, I do think if you're going to go see it, it is a big screen type of movie. With that much visual effects, I don't know how much of it translates to a little home TV. But I don't know. It's not groundbreaking like the first one. You've seen these visuals before. You've seen the characters. And in this movie, I would argue, was a little less interesting at times because, as far as visual effects, because we got to go back and forth more in the first movie and showing the contrast between the humans and the Na'vi. This movie, you're pretty much in Na'vi world the entire time. And so it's just one big CGI landscape. So you're just in a sea of CG the whole movie almost. And even the humans at times, yeah, they're there, but they're also not there at times too, because you could tell they're getting bounced around in a CG way. So it's just like, again, too much CG and not impressive enough CG to justify its existence. So 12 years worth, and you know, James Cameron probably yell at me now and saying, this is the best CG in the world, and I've worked so hard on it. And it's like, yeah, you did, and I can see that. That doesn't mean you made a good movie. And this will probably still do really well, and that's fine. But I agree with Todd in that these movies aren't for me. And I feel like it's almost like I feel like I should appreciate them, but I don't want to. And
I refuse.
Sense? Does that make sense? Like it's like you can tell there's a craft here, and he really is trying to make really good movies. This isn't some throwaway thing for him. This isn't some like, oh, I'm making this because it makes money. Like it's clearly a vision of his.
Well, we live in a day and age where CG is done so much, and it's done so effectively, and it's done well by not just him, but by so many other movie companies that it's like it's lost its luster.
Yeah.
it's not enough of a thing to carry a movie.
Right, and that was the appeal of the first.
Think.
And again, that was the appeal of the first one.
Yeah.
And the first one at least had going for it. Wow, I've never seen a movie like that as far as visuals go. But now we're 13 years later, where so many movies saw Avatar and said, "Oh wow, this is what we can do with computers. Let's do it." And now here we are, and it's like you said, too many years too late to be as relevant as the first one. So, I just, I wasn't like, I don't think it's a horrible movie. I don't think it's like you know, I don't think it's something that's like terrible, like, oh, Riff Tracks level Mystery Science Theater. You know, this is like, you know, one of the worst movies ever made. But it's too long, it's overstuffed. And self-indulgent, I go back to that word, because it's just like you can tell he thinks it's the greatest thing ever. And I'm not sure that translated to everybody else.
Matt?
Well, I think I have a bit of a different opinion than you guys. I will say I really enjoyed this movie.
Okay.
I had no expectations going in, and it was a pleasant surprise for me. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I thought, for me, well, there's a couple things going on with the first movie for me. One, I don't remember the first movie barely at all.
Oh, that helps.
I haven't seen it in 13 years since I saw it in the theaters that long ago. So there's a bit of
what's old is new again.
Yes. So that part of it was like, this is a really beautiful film. Like, yes, it's CG. Yes, people are good at CG, but this is good CG. And I like the fact that we were shown a world that is unlike our world in a lot of ways. Like, we were shown a lot of new species. We were shown a lot of new kind of, you know, animals, plants, etc., in the forest and in the sea, and I thought it was fascinating and beautiful to watch. I like a good let's unpack how the world works type of thing, and since I didn't remember the first one, this was a lot of that for me.
Okay.
And I'll say also that not seeing the first one was also a frustration point for me. The first part of the movie, I felt very frustrated because I was like, I don't remember what this character did. I don't remember who this is. I don't remember how this guy becomes a Na'vi. I don't remember, like...
This movie expected you to know.
They expect you to know. So if you're going to see this movie, my recommendation, probably against what Todd and Tim have said, is I think you should watch the first movie before you watch this one, just so you know what the heck's going on. I may end up watching the first one just because I'm probably going to watch this movie again, and I want to have that experience going into it. So, that being said, I thought that the story that was told needed the time that it took to tell it. So for me, 3 hours was fine. Other than feeling frustrated at the beginning for a bit, I felt like we really settled into the story, and I thought that spending time exploring like this new tribe with the water thing, like that was all fascinating to me, and I was like, oh, this is great. They're like, you know, bonding with sea creatures, and like, how does all that work? And that was all fine with me. I felt like there was equal parts. Yes, I'm making friends with a whale now, and now here's some suspense and some action being built, some drama being built, and really drawing me in and keeping me engaged for the whole 3 hours, which I did feel like I was. And there was some good, dramatic, tense moments at different points in the movie. So those were all really big pluses for me, other than being frustrated at the beginning of the movie. The negative things for me, I kind of alluded to in my summary. I kind of got off track of just giving you the facts, ma'am. And it was really just the contrived nature of the villain. Making a Na'vi clone of the villain from the first movie, who didn't succeed in his mission, by the way.
Right.
But, we decided we're going to clone him and bring him back to bring peace to the planet by destroying the Na'vi or whatever.
Which a huge plot of the first movie is that each one of those Na'vi clones costs so much money that they can't do it a whole lot.
Yeah.
Which is why Jake Sully had to fill in for his brother, who was
the
supposed to be
original one.
the biologist on the trip
Right.
instead of him. Which I know that you
I
probably don't
don't
remember
remember.
any of that.
I have no idea.
No, but Todd brings up a more important story point.
So, yeah, I thought that they did a fine job with storytelling as far as building suspense and drama between the two parties. I just thought one of the parties was completely ridiculous in existence and in their motives for what they were doing. Once we get down to, okay, this is your motive and I'm just going to go with it, fine. You executed it the way you wanted to and whatever.
Well, and the first one, so I guess a difference between the two movies, so it's not exactly copy and paste. The first one definitely spent a lot more time looking at the humans and what's going on in the human base and all that kind of stuff. But there was also two separate factions in the human base of people who were like, what we're doing is wrong.
Research.
We need to do peace. And then there's the jarheads and stuff like that. This movie does not have that balance at all. It is straight, the humans are the villains no matter what. There's one human who's not a returning character from the first one, who just kind of slightly feels bad about what they're doing. And then that's it. There was no moral wrestling around here. It was just straight up humans are bad, Na'vi are good.
Yep.
Just follow that equation.
Yep. No subtlety.
Yes. So, I guess to wrap things up, I like this movie, whereas there's some differences of thought.
I'd be interested to know how you feel after you watch the first one.
Yeah,
I'm very curious about that.
That's fair.
Not that I want it to ruin your experience or anything like that. I don't want it
This is his
to
gut
tarnish.
reaction.
Yeah,
This
I don't
is
want
his
it to
gut
tarnish your enjoyment of this movie. It's just an experiment. I'm super curious.
It's on the Disney Plus.
Well, maybe we'll have to report back about my rewatching of Avatar.
It's on that Disney
And I
Plus.
really had thought that we would try and get that when it was re-released in the theaters,
Yes,
the
it did.
first movie, and it just didn't work out for us to watch it for the podcast, which I'm sad about now. But
Well, and I'll be honest, I wasn't gonna say no, but I didn't want to.
yeah, fair.
If you both were like, "Hey, it's playing, we can make this," I'd be like, "All right, I'm down."
Yeah.
But in my heart, I'm like,
no.
I saw it 13 years ago. And
That was
for,
enough.
For movies, my mind is kind of a steel trap. So
Yes.
I'm all it's all locked up here.
Fair enough. Well, so it'll be interesting to see how our ratings shake out for this, because there's clearly some differences of experience, but that's what we like to have in the podcast. When it happens, it's great.
Yeah.
So
Fair enough.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't want all of our opinions to be the same.
That would be boring.
What's fun of that? I mean, sometimes it happens, but
Sure.
I think the better times are when it doesn't happen.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, getting down to serious business. How many waterfalls going over a floating island would you give this movie, which has baffled my mind since the first movie came out? How does that water replenish if the waterfall just goes right off the edge of the
into the
floating
world.
island?
Well, you use unobtainium.
Yeah,
and that
we've got
really-
unobtainium, and I can't remember what the
didn't
liquid
have
they're
a
going
name for it, I
after
don't
this time that apparently stops aging in humans.
Yes.
Let's throw that in there for
Which was, I'll just kind of throw it in for the fun of it. So, obviously, 0 being bad, because then you have no floating islands, no waterfalls going off them, and everything
Nothing
just
to
looks
look at.
crappy. Yeah. 5 being the best, because then you got at least like a sprawling mural of floating islands with these waterfalls that never seem to run out of water, doing their thing.
Yes.
So, Matt,
Yes.
give us your waterfall rating here.
Well, before I do that, Todd, I'm just going to do a little correction on the lyrics to the song Waterfalls.
Oh, okay.
Please
Stick to the
river.
rivers and the lakes you used to.
What did
Now,
I say?
You said listen to.
But to be fair, you could argue that is more in line with what happens in Avatar.
Yeah.
Sure, that's what I
listen
planned.
and tap in. I'm trying to give you credit, Todd.
Yeah, way to read into my intentions there, Tim.
TLC
give you
just
credit,
called. The surviving members of TLC called. They're down with that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Chile and...
Left eye.
No, Left Eye's dead.
Well, I know.
Oh.
You can still apologize.
I'm not
to
apologizing to her. She's not here anymore.
Okay.
Is it T-balls? What's the third?
Yes.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes. All right. So I will be an outlier, I'm sure, for this, but I'm going to say I really enjoyed this movie. I think it's visually appealing. I think you should see it in theaters. And I would recommend, if you don't watch the first movie, at least read a little summary of what happens in the first movie, and you'll
Fair.
be better off.
Yeah.
I don't want to take up 6 hours of your life by telling you to watch
Yeah.
the first movie for sure, especially when I don't remember it.
I mean, James Cameron wants you to do that. So
Yes,
of course he does.
if you're
he does.
listening to James.
Yes, do it. So I'm going to go with 3.5 waterfalls that are flowing off of floating islands, and that will be the top score, I'm sure. But
Good guess.
that's where I will land. So,
Fair. Tim?
I think I'm going to end up right at an even 2.0. I do want to give him credit for the visuals. They were stunning. They were, like I said, it's not that this is bad where you look at this and go, well, that looks cheap. No, not at all. It looks very well made, and a care was taken to it. It just was the movie itself that was the problem. So I want to give Cameron credit at least for, he works hard on these. So 2.0.
Okay.
Fair. Well, having a hard time landing on a number
Right.
here.
That's why I wanted it easier.
Yeah. I'm
Gut reaction.
gonna land on a 1.5, which I think is the biggest difference, Matt, that we've ever
We
a
can
full
look that-
two.
We can look that up.
That'd be harder to calculate, but yes.
a full 2 points.
I guess I could make another column in the spreadsheet and subtract to take the absolute value, and then we would
Just look
see.
at it. But yeah, there's been this come up before.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean all the points that I've already said, and there's just like some of this is me, and I will be
Yep.
full on accept responsibility of that. Like
And you
I had a problem with the fact that it felt like James Cameron went out of his way to show guns running out of ammo all the time to like put a new clip in. But then Zoe Saldana has an unlimited amount of arrows, even though in most shots she's not holding any arrows. They just kind of come out of nowhere.
Yes. I agree with that. That's a problem.
Yeah, it like my major problems and my smaller problems are all just joining up just to give James Cameron the middle finger. I think
His lessons are not subtle.
yes, and I strongly dislike the idea that all of humanity is now crappy and none of us really can like we would all apparently just be okay if we're just like, hey, we're gonna go destroy this native species and do this. Like, it's just that's frustrating to me. We also don't ever see like what's going on Earth. Like,
Nope.
Is anyone not okay with what's happening? Like, this movie specifically, it's just like humans are just so far the villain that it just makes humanity look so bad. So, not to say that there's not human villains in real life, but there's also plenty of great people who care about other people in real life too.
Well, in this world, they've all converted to become Na'vi, so...
Yeah, and there's like 10 of them out of the entire human race.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm at a 1.5 gut reaction.
Okay.
I want to follow up with Matt after he's
Yes.
watched the first one again.
Yes. Fair. All right. Well, any last thoughts before we wrap up here?
I think we're good.
No last thoughts.
The way of water flows through.
Oh, okay. I want to say something positive because I know that I've been dumping on this movie the whole time.
Yes.
I'll say I like the characteristics between the forest Na'vi and then the sea people. Like I like aesthetically how they're a little different.
They did.
Yeah.
Work,
Their
they
bodies
did
work a little different.
Yes, they did work.
I was like, okay, that's
separate
pretty
that.
cool. You
Yeah.
know, like you're in a different region of the world. It looked like they had to travel far to get to them and stuff like that. So I was like, you know what, that's kind of cool. Like I'll give credit where credit's due.
The lore was
Yes. Great. I agree, Todd.
Yeah.
It's a good point in the movie. Okay. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies with special guest Tim Davis, where we reviewed Avatar, The Way of Water, and we gave it an overall average rating of 2 1/3 waterfalls falling off of a floating island. So that's a slightly below average. You may want to skip it. But if you like the points that I made, maybe you see it anyway.
If you're a fan of Matt and you trust his opinion more than the others,
Yes.
then you got to go see this movie.
That is what I'm saying, yes. If you find me to be a trustworthy person, you'll see this movie. Thank you.
If you find Tim and I to be dirty liars
Well,
who peddle
follow your heart.
peddle misconceptions.
Well, anyway, yes. So we can't really recommend this movie. There are good parts, but they may be limited. And definitely at least read a summary before you see this of the first movie. It'll help you.
Yeah, don't sell yourself short. Matt recommends this movie.
Unless you have a steel trap for movies like Todd does.
It's a curse more than
you'll
it's a
remember.
benefit, I think.
Yes. But anyway, thank you, listeners, for listening, and subscribers for subscribing, and all the people doing all the things that make us have a successful podcast with at least 10 downloads every week. And we will see you next time.
Da 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 da
Da da
da da da.
da da da.